Hey guys, I am out in the garden this morning. Looks like it's probably going to rain on and off all day. It's Sunday morning, but I spent the last 2 days out in here just planting a ton of stuff out, and I thought you might appreciate a chance to do a little bit of a garden tour, walk you through some of the work I've been doing over the last couple of days, and just show you what's going on, see what you think. Just to kind of give you some background, we are zone 8A. It is not quite the end of March. Our last frost date is March 31st, but looking at the forecast, it's not supposed to get lower than like 45 every night over the next week and a half. So it really is perfect time to go ahead, spend some time. I had Friday off and pretty much all of my plants have arrived, telling me it's time to get them in the ground. So tell me what you think. I would love to hear your comments and your feedback and any suggestions you have to help me improve the garden. But for those of you who are maybe new to it, I wanted to show you what I've got going. Just for some context, I started this garden really hardcore last year. The azaleas were already there, but everything else I've added pretty much last season over the winter, or I'm just putting it in the ground right now. All right, so here we are in the pastel garden. Back over here, you can see I have a couple of dahlias I planted out yesterday. They're all pastel. Everything in this bed is pastel. And I have my azaleas. There's a couple of these larger ones, 1, 2, 3 here that come in a bright pink. And then down here, there are 2 that'll bloom white. Unfortunately, we did have a freeze last weekend, and a lot of them took quite a bit of damage just to the buds, so they'll be perfectly fine. It's just I'm not going to get the pretty blooms this season like I normally do. And then here are some daffodils. I got those from Longfield. They came in this last fall, so this is their first time planted out. I do have some gladiolas that I left in, again zone 8A. They did just fine. I do need to do some cleanup here of all the leaves. I am hesitant to mulch here. In Birmingham, we do get quite a few snakes, actually copperheads, which are poisonous, and I found them in my garden under some of the, underneath some of the mulch that was in here before. So I will just do more watering if that's what I need to do. I'm a little hesitant there. Behind these azaleas, and this one here I'll turn in peach, and these other 2 here are real pale pink. And behind that here, you can see where I have a clematis. Maybe you can see there, it's just starting to poke up. One thing I could use some suggestions on is I use these white plant tags to tell me where everything is. And unfortunately, they're looking a bit untidy. From the road, all you can see are plant tags. It doesn't look like a garden. So if you have some suggestions on what I could use that might be better, I would love to get that feedback. I do have quite a few bulbs that I planted last fall. I have some stock that I've just put out. I am really excited to see what happens with the alliums. They are coming in strong. I planted my first couple irises. You can see those. Actually, I missed it over here. I have a couple of my honey lilies that are just starting to get buds on them, so those will be coming real soon. Down front, I have a Gara, and I have a foxglove. Looks like it needs some trim work. It's got some yellowing. That's okay. We are coming along just fine. Again, you can see I've got some of my little seedlings, so they're not taking a lot of space right now. That's okay. I don't want to overplant this bed right now because then it'll look really untidy in the fall and I'll have to pull a lot of it out, or even over the next couple months. I have added quite a few perennials over the last year. There are quite a few lilies that are just starting to pop up. I have a couple daylilies. I planted them last year. Here behind my goose statue, you can see the hostas are starting to come up. These hostas are amazing. They get huge. They will completely overtake this goose here, and that's okay. Here I have these big pots I actually picked up at Lowe's. I got those just a few weeks ago, and I love them because we replaced the front door, and I just find that that is so attractive to have the pots match the door. Before I had smaller burgundy pots, and they were the same color as the old door. I like the blue so much better. The other thing that took some frost damage here is the hydrangeas, or are the hydrangeas. But you'll see they already have new growth, so they're going to be just fine. I did cover as best I could, but I couldn't get everything. There's a lupin I just put in yesterday. I think it'll be pretty happy back there. That part of the garden gets a little more shade. You can see my azaleas are there. One thing we added this year and I'm really enjoying is this rain barrel. I got that from Amazon. You can see it is hooked up to the eaves, so all the water on the roof drains there, and it allows me to water without having to use city water, which is really expensive here. And then this plant hook, these pots I was able to find at home. Normally they are, everywhere else I looked, they were like $30 to $40. I got them for $15 at home. Down here I have some gladiolas coming up, and of course some more daffodils. They're all looking wonderful. I do have my stepping stones that I got online at Zulily. I believe they're actually plant and hearth, but don't quote me on it. And then down here I have my little froggies, and they help me make sure that the hose, when I do have to run city water, doesn't run in front of the garden. Some more azaleas. And here I have my campylatas, which are just starting to bloom. I have some yarrow, a hellebore. I'm getting a lot of seedlings. I did plant up a fern. I love ferns, but I feel like they just really take over, so I try to keep them pot bound wherever possible. And then behind my azaleas, you'll see my irrigation, which is perfectly fine. It'll get covered up. I did start a few sweet peas, and I have this very tall trellis that they will grow up. I'll probably have to keep them trimmed a little bit, or they'd get a little out of control. And over here, I am doing a garden expansion this year. It'll take over this section. My husband was kind enough to plant this tree for me, which I love. And my first rose. I have not tried roses. I had one in our Michigan garden. It didn't do great. And then over here I have some creeping phlox. It looks like a couple took more damage than the others, but they're all doing pretty well. This is also the area that I like to put my plants out when they're hardening off, because it gets a good amount of sun and is a little protected. All right, so this section right here, if you run along with my finger, this is all going to be part of the plant or garden expansion of the pastel garden. And I'm really excited. This gives me a lot of area to pot out this year. Next, I thought we would just take a quick view of the burgundy bed. Up here, you'll see the pot that I planted out a few weeks ago. I shared that with you. When I got here, this bed had that black plant material weed barrier, which is just all torn up and was only full of weeds, honestly. So I've been pulling it up as I go, but I don't have all of it yet. So you'll see over the next few weeks, it will really be over covered with all the plants I have already started. Got quite a few snapdragons. Everything is going to be either black, purple, or burgundy in this bed, so it makes it very easy to figure out what needs to go in over here. This is my favorite right now. It's a burgundy Gaura. Love it. It is bringing so much color. And this section right here at nighttime, as the sun sets, it just catches fire, and it's absolutely gorgeous. So as you can see, this area is already quite full, and there's a whole lot more to still come up or fill in. So this part's going to be the garden to watch, I think, over the next few weeks. I think this part will be quite fabulous. And I do have several dahlias and drumstick alliums. Really what started out here more than anything was the corabelles. Unfortunately, the deer really like them, so I try to hide them among things that they probably won't like, hoping that that'll work. I also have quite a few hellebore, which gives us some winter flower. The last garden I wanted to share with you is our tropical border. This is a brand new garden that didn't exist until about this time last year. My husband dug it out for me. Now it is mostly canna, a few coreopsis, and quite a few dahlia. So this bed gets quite tall, which is great because it's at the top of our property. So it does act as a nice little barrier as things come up. So I added 3 canna yesterday, 2 new dahlias. There's quite a few seedlings in here that have been planted. Last year it was mostly zinnia, and I had 3 canna. So it's not much to look at right now, but if you follow her this summer, you'll get to see more and more. Again, I have a real problem with deer here. So I've tried to cover up the things that are newest to the bed that I think the deer are going to go after. There's a few wild tulips that I sowed late fall, and they're starting to come up too. One thing I almost passed right past. This is a fritillaria, and it's a rubris, it's a red. So we'll watch that too. It'll be coming up soon. And this one is all planted in reds, pinks, yellows. And I like it because it gives me a different color palette to work with. Okay. So I hope you enjoyed our little garden tour here. I think you'll find over the next few weeks, and of course the next several months, things are going to get really exciting here. I'm happy to share the journey with you. I hope you find this time useful, and certainly if there's anything specific you'd like me to share, just let me know.